away from the church and wasn't sure about God. She got involved in an affair, got pregnant. It was a mess. And then she dies. And she's up above and she's watching the resuscitation. So she then takes off and she goes to this beautiful place and in the presence of this God of light. And she said, even though I turned from Catholicism, I knew this was God. And in his presence, she experiences a love that is just unconditional, way beyond what a parent has for a child or a granddad for his little granddaughters. And he tells her, your son is going to live, and you need to go back, and you need to raise him. And she goes back, but as she's coming back, so this is going to sound bizarre, but she passes through the top side of the ceiling fan as she's coming back to her body, and she notices a red sticker on the top side of the ceiling fan. And when she comes to, she can not only describe who's in the room and what they were doing during her resuscitation, she finally, no one would believe her. Which is why a lot of these people just stay silent. That's the first reaction they give. She convinced a nurse and an orderly to get a ladder and go look on the top side of the ceiling fan, the side you can't see. And she described what was written on the red sticker, and sure enough, there it was. Right. There are lots of those. Yeah, lots of those. And man, Jim, I'll tell you, one of the most profound things that I write about in Imagine the God of Heaven is several people I interviewed said in God's presence, so Erica was one of them, she's experiencing this love beyond measure, and then God is giving her these lessons, and like lessons about our uniqueness, how he created each one of us unique. He gave us gifts. We're not to compare to each other, because we are to make a unique ripple effect through humanity, and our thoughts and our words and our deeds are what make that ripple effect, and it all works with God's plan. But then she said, that feeling shifted, and I feel this enormous sadness. She said, I didn't know where it was coming from at first. She said, imagine a sadness like you had just lost all your children. And she said it was like that, but even more. And then she realized this sadness is coming from God. And she said, God, why are you so sad? And he said, look, he was giving her these lessons, right? And she sees the planet. She sees Earth. And suddenly she realized, oh, my children were down there. She loved her children. She had stopped her nursing career to homeschool her, loved them so much. She was a Christian. And she then feels this overwhelming sadness again and sees these flames around the planet. And then the planet bursts into flames, and she starts to panic. Like, my family's there. And then she sees these lights, what she realized were souls as they came by her, going to heaven. Wow. And her family. And she realizes they're safe. And she has this moment of and she turns to God and says, God, why are you so sad? Look, they're coming to heaven. They're here with us. And he says, look again. And she looks again and she sees souls who are still there. They're not coming. And what she realized, and the Lord said to her, Erica, with the gift of life, I give the gift of free will. And what he was saying is that it's real. We're here in a time of choosing. God said to Moses, I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life. The Lord is your life. Choose life that you may live. And right? Well, of course. And so we are in that time. And the thing is, it saddens the heart of God when people don't choose him, when they reject him. Yeah. But it's real.
Well, John Burke offered such great insights, some sobering thoughts as well on today's episode of Focus on the Family with Jim Daly, and there's much more to come.
Well, I really enjoy our time in the studio with John Burke. He's always a great guest. The stories he shares are captivating, and the picture of heaven that he paints is so exciting. It gets me going and gives me great hope and encouragement. I share this message with so many people in airports, or I know people that have loved ones passing away, and I'll talk about this very content. And let me remind you that Focus on the Family is here for you. If you've never given your life to Jesus Christ, we'd love to talk with you. about this most important decision. And we have so many resources available for you, like our free online article, Coming Home. You'll learn what it means to embrace the love of God and accept His grace. And then what are the next steps you can take to become part of His family. We also have the book we talked about today by John Burke, Imagine the God of Heaven. And you can get it directly through us. That money goes right back into ministry, providing hope to help families just like yours. After a year of stressful politics, financial challenges, unbelievable social changes that are occurring, we want and we need to give these families hope. The Christmas season is the perfect time to share the hope that Jesus Christ came to give. You can come alongside hurting individuals to give families hope through your support of Focus on the Family. And when you give a gift of any amount today to the ministry, we'll send you a copy of Imagine the God of Heaven as our way of saying thank you for helping others.
And right now, for a special match opportunity, your year-end gift will be doubled dollar for dollar. God's going to use your gift to bring healing and redemption to twice the families. Donate today and get your copy of the book from John Burke, Imagine the God of Heaven, when you call 800, the letter A in the word family, or stop by focusonthefamily.com/broadcast. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for listening to Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back as we hear more of the conversation with John Burke and once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.
For 87 years, Yoder Oil has been Indiana's trusted fuel and lubricant supplier. They offer quality fuel with power service diesel additives, including cetane boost and slick diesel lubricant for peak performance and protection. As the only diesel additive approved by Cummins, they ensure your equipment runs smoothly. Count on their expert team for all your fuel and lubricant needs. Quality service, quality products. Visit yoderoil.com today to keep your fleet moving.
Get ready for a spectacular night of music Saturday, December 7th at the Blue Gate Theater with Stephen Curtis Chapman. Chart toppers like Don't Lose Heart and fan favorites that will get your feet moving and your heart soaring. This isn't just a concert, it's an experience. So mark your calendars for Stephen Curtis Chapman, December 7th at 7 p.m. Get your tickets today at BlueGateTheater.com.
The Colson Center's mission is to help the church be the church. That means it's the kind of church that will move the world, not be moved by the world. And I'm asking you to help us with this mission by giving a generous year-end gift before December 31st. Thanks to a very generous $350,000 challenge grant, every single gift given between now and December 31st will be doubled. So please, come alongside this important ministry by making your gift at colsoncenter.org/December. That's colsoncenter.org/December. Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. From the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Well, at the heart of both Christmas and the Christian worldview is the incarnation, the idea that God took on flesh and in Christ became fully human. It's a mystery, to be sure, but as humanity journeys even further into this digital age, the idea of the incarnation will only become increasingly strange. This virtual world of high-speed internet, social media, smartphones, and the cloud is increasingly disembodied. And that makes it even harder to imagine why God would need to take on flesh in order to save the world. Couldn't he have just uploaded a software update for our human hearts remotely? Why would God need to preach in person to just a few thousand people at most, when instead he could have posted on social media, slid into our DMs, and set up a Zoom meeting if he just waited a couple centuries? Why bodily resurrect rather than just update our consciousness over the cloud? Well, the reason, as C.S. Lewis argued in his book Miracles, is that the incarnation is at the very center of God's redemptive plan for the world. As Lewis said, quote, "The central miracle asserted by the Christians is the incarnation. They say that God became man. Every other miracle prepares for this, or exhibits this, or results from this," end quote. Think about it. Without the incarnation, there are no other miracles from Jesus. No water into wine, no walking on water, no healing the sick, raising the dead, no resurrection. And for Lewis, this would be more than just an an unfortunate loss to the creativeness of the Jesus story. Again, here's Lewis, quote, "Just as every natural event is the manifestation at a particular place and moment of nature's total character, so every particular Christian miracle manifests at a particular place and moment the character and significance of the incarnation. There's no question in Christianity of arbitrary interferences just scattered about. It relates not a series of disconnected raids on nature, but the various steps of a strategically coherent invasion, an invasion which intends complete conquest and occupation," end quote. I love that. In other words, there's an intentionality to God's redemptive plan that we don't always consider, but it's clear that this plan is a big one. That's why it is essential that we dive as deeply as possible into all of the implications of the incarnation, not just in making sense of Christmas, but also responding to the challenges of this disembodied age. What our bodies mean for who we are and how we live is an essential element of the Identity Project, a new collection of resources on sexuality and identity. Don't miss the upcoming Identity Project webinar entitled Understanding Our Identity, a Theology of the Body. It features theologian and author Christopher West. The webinar will be on December the 10th at 7 p.m. To save your seat, sign up at colsoncenter.org/identity. That's colsoncenter.org/identity. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Jared Hayden. And for more resources to live like a Christian today, go to breakpoint.org.
FM 104.7 WFRN Elkhart South Bend.
Human nature is a fickle thing. When we're cruising through a carefree season of success and abundance, we allow our dependence on God to wane. We become complacent. And then, when hard times come, we tend to grumble and complain. Sound familiar? Well, today on Insight for Living, Chuck Swindoll draws upon a classic Old Testament story in the book of Exodus to remind us that God provides everything we need, even when we're wandering in the wilderness. Chuck titled his message, A Heavenly Diet versus an Earthly Appetite.
High school history teachers have a way of either making you love or hate history. I was fortunate in that God gave me in high school a history teacher that really made it live. Her name was Mrs. Allen. She wasn't very impressive. She probably weighed 80 pounds dripping wet. She was a sickly woman, but my, how she loved history. And as a result, she taught a group of high school kids how to love it along with her. I remember a lot of things Mrs. Allen taught us, but one thing hangs clear in my mind. She said this: students, there are two things that you can do with history. You can ignore it, or you can learn from it. Since her teaching, I have come across the words of a wise sage who said, there is one thing we have learned from history.